We have no agreement. We have agreement to possibly get to an agreement. So I think the way it was announced, which was really bad, okay, everybody jumped to a conclusion, maybe even this body, that, they're selling to the, we're not, but we are really trying to figure out the right thing to do for our players and the global game of golf. And by the way, we'll try hard to get an agreement. And I'm hopeful that we will. If we don't, we'll have to go through some other. We'll have to accept that we're going to have to go back and compete, and we'll have to do it, and we'll do it.
An agreement to have an agreement. That was Jimmy Dunn, PGA Tour Policy Board member, yesterday in Washington, D.C. We're joined now by Brooklyn College sports law professor Jodi Balsam. Jodi, how do you think what happened yesterday will impact this movement towards a definitive agreement between the PGA Tour and the Saudi Public Investment Fund?
Yesterday's hearing crystallized that the PGA Tour-PIF partnership raises serious questions about human rights, about foreign influence, about antitrust. And if they weren't aware beforehand, they are now, that their negotiations are going to need to take those questions into account. How are they going to design a deal, a final deal with the deadline of the end of this calendar year that will satisfy those concerns? And I'll jump in and address the antitrust concerns first. So you're aware sports mergers have a history of significant antitrust scrutiny in football, basketball, hockey. There is a pending Department of Justice antitrust investigation into this partnership. So what do they have to do in terms of the deal they strike, the definitive agreement they reach to address those concerns? Well, first of all, the deal has to benefit consumers in terms of the quality of the athletic contests and the availability and the cost of that product. Because antitrust harm is measured in, for example, providing fewer events and fewer options for consumers. Are there going to be more or less tournaments and other ways for the consumer to interact with professional golf? The other concern is that LIV spent the past year calling the PGA Tour a monopoly, and the combined entity will be even more dominant. So they have to ensure that they are going to be sensitive to the needs of their players, sponsors, and media rights, and avoid abusing that dominance. They have to continue to innovate, to increase output. And on the plus side, in antitrust terms, what the combined efforts will deliver to consumers is what fans want in terms of seeing all the best golfers compete against each other in the same event. So there are pluses and minuses to take away from yesterday's discussion, especially on the antitrust front. And it will be of great interest to the Department of Justice to mine that testimony for evidence that this agreement will deliver what consumers want. And one other takeaway is that over and over again, we heard from all sides of the debate yesterday that what we have in LIV is an irrational economic actor who poses an existential threat to the future existence of the PGA Tour. That actually weighs on the plus side in terms of antitrust clearance, because the combined entity may be the only way that elite golf survives.
Jodi, obviously the Department of Justice was probably watching the hearing yesterday with a fine-tooth comb. You mentioned LIV Golf. How impactful would the livelihood of LIV Golf into 2024 be in them ultimately making a decision if combining commercial operations for a partnership would then make sense to ensure that those playing opportunities continue in the near future?
Exactly. The Department of Justice will want to see that if LIV Golf goes away, that doesn't mean innovation goes away, that doesn't mean fewer tournaments or fewer opportunities for players. And one way that they can minimize the potential anti-competitive effects of the merger is to give the golfers more flexibility and empower them in terms of governance. If the Department of Justice understands from this deal that the golfers have a meaningful say in how the game is going to be governed going forward, and they have more opportunities, more flexibility to play outside of the combined tour, that will go a long way towards satisfying antitrust concerns.
Jodi, this wouldn't be the first time that an American business has taken investment from a sovereign wealth fund that's attached to an autocratic country. Are there kind of legal guidelines or precedents that would apply here in terms of how it ought to be handled?
Well, as you mentioned, the sovereign wealth funds have been investing in U.S. businesses for decades, including from countries that have fairly abhorrent or troubling human rights records. So how does a responsible American business continue to deal with those investors and still honor our values? So other companies have dealt with this before. One way that as a nation we deal with it is if there is concern over national security threat posed by foreign investment, the U.S. government can actually step in and stop it. But we didn't hear that level of concern in yesterday's hearing. So absent U.S. government intervention, what does a responsible business do? Best practices established in other industries include demonstrating that the entity takes human rights seriously. And certainly one way that professional golf can do this is engage in some reforms on their own home front first, address golf's own history of exclusion and discrimination. And beyond that, actively identify human rights risks associated with Saudi participation in professional golf and try to actively mitigate them. That requires a great deal of transparency about policies and practices and taking some concrete steps. For example, one that has been suggested is don't hold a tournament in a jurisdiction that uses forced labor to maintain golf courses. And seek knowledge and insight from experts in Middle Eastern affairs and from nonprofits whose work addresses these issues.
Jodi, Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, who is the Senate subcommittee chair, gave us the goodbye for now, teasing a potential future hearing. If and when PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan is involved down the road, if they have a subsequent hearing, what do you expect we would hear out of Jay Monahan?
Well, what I expect from the hearing is more of the same, is Congress putting the screws on the PGA Tour to attempt to influence the negotiations and the shape of a final deal and how the combined entity will operate. I don't think there'll be any surprises. I don't think the questioning will go into areas that weren't already covered, but I think that they will insist on having the commissioner show his face in these hearings.
Well, we've seen a lot of you in the last few days. Jodi, we expect to see a lot of you in the future as this story rolls on. Thanks for your time today.
You're welcome.